Yes, sir.
When I am DDN Reddy, Assistant Director, DGTS, Chennai Zone.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon to everybody.
Afternoon.
Director General of Taxpayer Services has always been in the forefront in taking important policy framework of Government of India in taxation matters directly to the taxpayers' doorsteps. In this regard, DGTS has been regularly conducting webinars and outreach programs on various subjects that are of immediate relevance, interest, or importance to the trade, importers, and exporters. Today's webinar topic is Amnesty Scheme under GST for Waiver of Interest, etc. under Section 128A of GST rules, which is being conducted in association with Tamil Nadu, Conference of Indian Industry, Tamil Nadu. Is that another initiative in our endeavor to handhold the taxpayer in taxation matters and to further increasing the ease of doing business? I am your moderator for the session. It is informed that the mic is muted and the camera is disabled for all the participants other than speakers in the session. Mic is muted to avoid any unintended audio interruptions so that the speaker is audible to all. The camera is disabled to avoid bandwidth related issues and to have an interruption free session. However, the chat box is enabled for all and the participants can register their questions, queries, doubts in the chat box during the course of the session. There is a Q&A session that follows the main presentation. These queries, doubts that are registered in the chat box will be taken up and answered, clarified by the topic speaker at the end of the session. It is requested that questions, queries, doubts restricted only to the topic of today's webinar. I repeat, it is requested that questions, queries, doubts should be restricted only to today's topic. So I'm sorry to say this, due to illness, our principal additional director is not able to attend the webinar, but sir has sent us a valuable speech. On behalf of, I'll go through this speech for all of you, please. A warm welcome to all of you. Today's webinar is focused on Amnesty Scheme and the GST for Waiver of Interest, etc. under Section 128A. Provides a unique opportunity for all taxpayers, including women entrepreneurs, to settle their GST liabilities with reduced or waived penalties, interest, and late fees. This scheme aims to support compliance and reduce the financial burden on taxpayers who have defaulted on their obligations. For women taxpayers, especially those running small or medium businesses, MSMEs, this initiative serves as a relief by promoting voluntary compliance and easing the burden of delayed payments, which encourages women entrepreneurs to regularize their accounts without the added stress of FD fines, fostering growth and financial stability in their ventures. This is the message from all participants. Thank you so much. Now I request Ms. Savita Keshav Jagdishan, the Vice Chairman, Tamil Nadu, senior recent partner of Kocher and company, to deliver the guest address, please. Savita, ma'am, you can go ahead, please.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you for this organization of this particular webinar series. So I would really like to commend the Director General of Taxpayer Services, especially the Chennai Zonal Unit, for coming forward and putting together these programs. It's a series of programs and an initiative taken by Mason to basically educate us, our women members, and the general public as such to understand the whole GST scheme. So the 3 weeks back, we had the first of these seminars in which the speaker had very well put together the entire scenario of how the GST scheme works, how we essentially can do the applications to understand where it essentially is applicable, and also certain aspects of computation. It was extremely well received, and we had huge participation during that time. I think nearly 100 odd members had joined to understand how this whole GST scheme works. The Indian Women Network of CII, which is the Confederation of Indian Industries, essentially has come together to support women entrepreneurs and women professionals. We all know that as far as the standing of women in society is concerned, they require a certain amount of augmentation as well as a requirement to see that their key needs are addressed, and as well as for them to essentially be inculcated as far as the economy is concerned because of the huge role that they play. Therefore, for them also, it is very, very important to understand as far as aspects of compliances are concerned, and tax is a very, very inherent part of it. And for those of them who are running their own businesses, GST becomes a very, very key component. Therefore, the first session that was essentially run was extremely a big eye-opener. The second session today that has been run, which is with regard to the GST Amnesty Scheme, is essentially aimed to allow every one of us to understand how we can basically look at reliefs with regard to the filings that we have done, and also to reduce the burden, to understand some systemic issues that might have occurred during the filing and to rectify it. Therefore, I really would like to thank the Directorate General of Taxpayer Services for organizing this, especially Shri Nirav Kumar Malik, IRS, and our key speaker for today, Shri R. Srivatsan, for coming forward and doing this program for us. Thank you so much, and I hand it over to you, sir. So can you hear me? Madhuri, I'll ask you to step in to basically speak about the program as well as the GST scheme, as well as what our policy and advocacy vertical is about.
Sure, Savita. Thank you very much. Thanks for this opportunity as well. As our Vice Chair, Woman Ms. Savita had mentioned, this is the second session that CII IVAN is partnering with the DGTS to bring into account, to bring into the foray the importance of the amnesty scheme that has been rolled out with effect from November 1st, 2024. I am an advocate practicing in Madras High Court. I am also the lead of Tamil Nadu policy and advocacy in CII IVAN. In this capacity, we actually try to interweave the law that is there, which is between the law and the applicability of it in the business side of it as well. So we try to bridge this gap that sometimes might occur for women, especially, or more specifically for women, to understand how the law impacts them in their day-to-day life, be it at home or at work or any place that they are visiting. In that capacity, we have a lot of entrepreneurs as members, as part of IVAN, who are impacted by GST. And of course, as customers, all of us are impacted by GST in one way or the other. So when we understood the importance of GST, we thought that this partnering helps all, not only our members, but anybody as a woman who can actually understand the role and impact of GST itself in their day-to-day life. Now, as women entrepreneurs or somebody who's working in the business or conducting their own business, there were a lot of challenges that they face in terms of applicability of GST, the number of returns that they have to file, and also the factor that there is a lot of compliance issues involved. And we have, when it comes to the GST portal working, there were some technical glitches and other things. I'm sure when GST was implemented, I have attended a lot of sessions conducted by NASIN where they tried to make the process as seamless as possible. Sometimes women entrepreneurs also understand that, as MSME or a composition scheme has been there, where at least the 1.5 crore limit is there. which helps them to have their compliance a little bit lesser, where they only have to file quarterly returns or so. Of course, sometimes some of them miss the deadline for filing returns, or they miss it. Then they think that the registration gets cancelled, or there's some kind of difficulty. They don't even notice that they have received a notice from the GST department itself, because it quietly sits in the GST portal sometime, and they're not able to understand it, or they haven't seen that and an order comes to be passed. So this amnesty scheme is going to help a lot of women entrepreneurs, or not just women, or anybody conducting a business in India as far as GST is concerned, where they can use this amnesty scheme, which has been promoted by the government. Of course, one should note that the act is only 7 years old, and I don't remember an amnesty scheme coming out within 7 years of its introduction. The government understands the importance of or the difficulties that trade may find when when a new enactment or a new taxation regime itself is being brought into. And I'm sure this session that is being conducted by the DGTS, along with the NASIN, DGTS, and the CIIWIN, is going to be an eye-opener for a lot of them to understand the importance of the amnesty scheme itself. We once again thank the DGTS and our speaker, Mr. Srivatsan, who has kindly consented to give the nuances of the amnesty scheme, so that it makes a wide impact for all that was intended by the government itself. So thank you very much for this opportunity. Over to you, sir. Can anybody from the DGTS hear us? I think some of them are muted, so I'm not sure if they're able to hear, if they're talking.
Srivatsan sir, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm able to hear all of you. I thought somebody from DGTS will actually initiate it. I'm just waiting for them.
Sure, sir.
Right. So I think now, without wasting much time, shall I begin the session?
Sure, sir. Please do.
Okay, right. Thank you, madam. Thank you very much. So at the outset, I too join our keynote speakers today in acknowledging the efforts made by DGTS for sensitizing this amnesty scheme amongst the taxpayers, because this is one of the initiatives made by the government to ensure that the honest taxpayers, in fact, are respected, and any mistake that has happened inadvertently or on account of ignorance, a lighter view is taken on that. So that is the essence and objective of the amnesty scheme. So let me also acknowledge the efforts taken by Nason Chennai here for preparing this content for today's session. So what I would like to do is to share a PowerPoint presentation with all of you, so that it becomes little visually connectable also. Right. So yeah. Right. So I think the PowerPoint presentation is visible. One line of confirmation will help me to proceed further.
It's visible, sir.
Yeah. Right. So today's session will be on this GST waiver scheme, which was introduced by the government, especially to help small taxpayers who have committed mistakes on account of ignorance or inadvertence. So what I will be speaking to you today, my presentation plan will be something like this. What I will be doing today is I'll give a brief introduction of the scheme, the legal provisions associated with that. You also need to know the procedural aspects to ensure that we get the maximum benefit out of the scheme. There are certain forms which has been prescribed, and you know that every communication between the taxpayer and the tax administrator is through the common portal. No physical interaction is possible, and therefore this is sort of a faceless aspect. There is no human intervention for this availing the benefit of this scheme. I'll also take you through some of the FAQs, in a sense that we have done this this session after introduction of this section 128 quite a number of times. On the basis of the experience, we had received a lot of questions, and probably I have culled out those questions so that the answers are given to those questions. We'll have a small wrap up towards as a conclusion, and then I will open up this session for direct question and answers. Let me tell you that I have the access to the chat box also. So in case somebody wants to put some questions on the chat box, they're most welcome. And I have access to that chat box so that I can answer those questions also on real time once the questions are posted. So this is how I'll be taking today's presentation. I hope this will suit all the participants of today. Right. Straight away, let me go into the scheme. This is popularly called as GST Amnesty Scheme for Waiver of Interest and Penalty. The background of this scheme is that the provisions of Section 128A, which deals about this scheme, was introduced in the context of the fact that the GST framework need to have the responsibility to address the challenges faced by the taxpayers, especially during the early years of implementation of the GST. Generally, the taxpayers faced difficulties on account of two situations. I put them into two silos. One is because of the technical issues. Second is lack of awareness, being a new law that was brought on 1st of July 2017. So upon introduction, we had a lot of problems which were portal related. Probably the taxpayers were not able to log in. Probably the portal also had certain technical glitches. They were not able to upload the information provided by the taxpayers. It had its own downtime, and all these factors hindered filing of returns or other legislative compliances that are required to be done by the taxpayers. So this is on account of the technical problems. Second is lack of awareness. It's not possible for us to know everything about the GST law right from the first day of its implementation. Especially many small and medium enterprises were little unfamiliar with the new regulations and procedures that they need to follow. So taking all these aspects into cognizance, government felt that they have to extend an amnesty scheme. They have to extend an amnesty scheme to the taxpayers to ensure that whatever mistakes has happened during that particular point of time should be given a lenient view and support the taxpayers during the initial phases of GST implementation. So this is the objective of this amnesty scheme, which has been introduced in terms of Section 128A of the CGST Act. This is one of the recommendations made by the 53rd GST Council meeting. And in that meeting, in fact, the council recommended that as a trade facilitation measure, they said that we need to insert a new provision itself under the CGST Act, which was called as Section 128A, and provide a conditional waiver of interest and penalty. This scheme is now popularly called as the Amnesty Scheme of 2024, where the big relief that the taxpayers will get is with reference to the interest or the penalty that is associated with that. The proposed Section 128, which was inserted, it was in terms of Section 146 of the Finance Act, so it was part of the budget proposals itself, and therefore now once it received the assent of the President, the CGST Act had its full freedom to bring in this Section 124. And after this budget proposals were accepted, a notification was issued, notification number 17 of 2024, and this section came into effect from 1st of November 2024. So this is a little bit a piece of history that is associated with the introduction of this amnesty scheme under Section 128A. And after the 53rd GST Council meeting, in the 54th GST Council meeting also, the government was quite serious in rolling out this scheme as early as possible. 54th GST Council also made a recommendation because it is not only the power which matters, which empowers the legislation to bring out this scheme. There has to be a business process and also a facility for the taxpayers to go through this scheme and avail the benefit. And therefore, in order to keep that in mind, 54th GST Council meeting introduced Rule 164 in the CGST rules, which provided the basic business process or the procedures that are to be followed by the taxpayer who intends to avail the benefit of this scheme. Rule 164 also had the terms and conditions to avail the benefit under 128A. Along with introduction of these rules, 8 forms were also prescribed so that there is a harmonized application format and harmonized business process right from the time of application till the disposal of the issue happens. So this happened. This rule was inserted in terms of notification 20 of 2024, and it came into effect from 1st of November 2024, as was the section under 128A. And the government has now fixed 31st March 2025 as the due date before which all the payments accepted in the demand will have to be paid in order to facilitate a taxpayer to avail this waiver scheme. So notification 21 of 2024 has fixed 31st of March 2025, before which all payments with reference to the tax demands that were issued are in fact paid by the taxpayers, and then subsequently apply for this waiver scheme. And also to facilitate proper understanding and subsequently availing the complete benefit of this scheme, the government, the GST Council recommended that there has to be a clarificatory circular that requires to be issued so that the taxpayers are quite clear about their advantages as well as their compliance obligations to avail the benefits of this scheme. And accordingly, circular number 238 of 2024 dated 15th of October 2024 was also issued. So the entire structure of this scheme under 128A was facilitated through Budget 2024 through the Finance Act, and after that through the recommendations of 53rd and 54th GST Council meeting. All those aspects very clearly indicate the fact that the government was very clear in extending a amnesty scheme to the taxpayers, precisely because of the fact that during the initial phase of introduction of GST, people were troubled by certain technical glitches, and also because of the fact that they were ignorant about their compliance obligations. Right. Next aspect is what is in section 128A, or the question that requires to be answered is who are all eligible for this scheme. Let me tell you that the first section provision of section 128A says that any person who has been issued with a notice under 73(1), that is quite important, because any notice that is issued under any of the act other than section 73 are not eligible for this scheme, and therefore any person who has been issued with notice under section 73, where it is a normal notice without attempting to establish a guilty mind or a mens rea for an extended period under section 74, section 73 notices are alone covered. So any notice that is issued under section 73, or after issuance of a notice, an order has been passed. So even if an order is passed under subsection 9 of section 73, those orders are also eligible for availing the benefits of the scheme. Or after the order is passed, if an appeal has been filed, even in that stage, a taxpayer can in fact go and avail the benefits of this scheme. But this scheme is the only restriction with reference to this scheme is that this scheme applies only for those tax periods which lie between 1st of July 2017 to 31st March 2020. And if a person pays full amount, no interest, no penalty will apply, and all related proceedings will be considered to have been dropped or concluded. Apart from that, we also have certain other technical aspects also. Any notice under section 74 is generally not eligible for this scheme. Only notices issued under section 73 are eligible, but there are certain situations where a notice has been issued under section 74, subsequently order has also been passed, but the appellate authority is of the view that there is no guilty mind or mens rea that is established in terms of the notice that is issued, and therefore they would remand it back to the original adjudicating authority to take cognizance of the fact that had the notice been issued under section 73 without invoking the provisions of mens rea, what would be the action that is taken by the officer. So here the officer will take action under section 73 instead of action under section 74. So even in such cases where a 74 notice is remanded back to the adjudicating authority to take action within the limited time of section 73, in that situation also the taxpayer is eligible to avail the benefit under Section 128. So it is not that all doors are closed as far as Section 74 is concerned. If it is remanded back and the officer take cognizance of that and issues an order under 73(9), then that is also eligible for this scheme. Then appeal by the department. So even if the matter is pending with the appellate authority, consequent upon the appeal by the department, even in that case, in order to ensure that there is no further litigation, the taxpayer can volunteer and say that I would like to avail the benefit of the scheme and come up with payment and requisition for waiver of interest and penalty. But the only aspect is if the order is passed, order in appeal is passed by the appellate authority, and if there is an additional liability, that amount also is required to be paid. The taxpayer does not pay that amount, then the waiver order that is given will become null and void. I will, in fact, try to explain this to you in the subsequent slide with an illustration so that you are able to understand it better. Interest and penalty already paid. There is no refund with reference to that. So whoever has paid the interest and penalty, notwithstanding the fact that an amnesty scheme is likely to be brought in, they cannot seek refund of what has been paid. So in that sense, the amnesty scheme sometimes hurts those taxpayers who in order to discourage litigation, pay up the interest and penalty. So in that situation, no refund is granted to them. The scheme feels sorry for that. Right. So what is Rule 164? 164 precisely gives all the information for the business processes associated with the availment of the benefit of this scheme. So whenever a notice has been issued under Section 73, the last date for payment of the tax amount demanded is 31st March 2025. And whenever the notice is remanded back, as I said, I was quoting an example, when a notice has been issued under 73, subsequently remanded back to adjudicate it under Section 73, in that situation, the application will have to be made within 6 months from the order which is issued under Section 73. Of course, all the applications for waiver of interest and penalty shall accompany with the payment of the amount of tax that has been demanded. So this rule, in fact, gives a complete procedure, business process, as well as the forms that are to be used for application for waiver of this scheme. Right. We will now see what are the categories of persons who are entitled to avail the benefit of the scheme. As I said, all those taxpayers who have been issued with a notice under Section 73 or a statement of fact under Section 73(3) and where adjudication order has been passed. So even in the show cause notice stage, a person can apply for this waiver scheme. Second is, let us assume that the notice has been issued and order also has been passed, but no appeal has been filed under Section 107 or 108. Even such situations, such persons can apply for this scheme. The third stage is order in appeal has been passed by the appellate authority or a revisionary authority. Of course, it could have been by the tribunal also, but as on date, since GStat has not yet been formed, the order in appeal passed by the appellate authority or revisionary authority can also, those persons can also apply for this scheme. For this, as I said, when the order in original is remanded back, the order in original passed under Section 74 is remanded back to be adjudicated under Section 73. In that situation also, during that stage also, that person can apply for waiver of this scheme. So in effect, the types of cases that are entitled is all pending show cause notices can be become eligible. The only condition is that those show cause notices should have been issued under Section 73 of the CGST Act. And the adjudication order is passed, but no appeal has been filed. Order in appeal has been passed, but the appellate or revisionary authority further action has not been taken. Adjudication order or appellate order or no writ petition is pending in the court is also eligible for this scheme, subject to withdrawal of the appeal that is made to the proper officer there, or cases remanded back to be decided under Section 73. and is pending redetermination. So in all these 5 situations, a person becomes eligible for this waiver scheme of interest and penalty under section 128. What is the period covered? Is it no complement, a full complement from 2017 till date? The answer is no, because no, the entire essence of this scheme is only to provide relief at the initial stages of implementation of GST, and therefore the law itself, section 128 itself, covers only 3 years period. So only those demands which are pertaining to these 3 years, that is 2017-18, the first year of implementation of GST, 2018-19 and 2019-20. Only those demands pertaining to these years. It's not required that the demand should have been issued in these years. The demand should be pertaining to these tax periods. They are eligible for scheme. And let me also confirm a fact that this scheme is not only covers the tax liability, but also the demands relating to input tax credit, which has happened because like mismatches or no ineligible credits or ineligible transition credit also in certain cases. So all these in fact are eligible for taking benefit under this scheme. And the cutoff date is that it has been said that the cutoff date is 31st March 2025. What does this cutoff date mean? Is that any taxpayer who wants to avail the benefit of this scheme shall pay the tax demanded under section 73 before this cutoff date, and then subsequently apply for the amnesty scheme. The amnesty scheme will work only when the tax amount demanded has been paid in full. Without payment of this tax amount, the application for waiver will not be entertained by the department, because the scheme does not allow to do that. In case of the unique situation where the demand proceedings are pending for requantification under section 73, then they have 3 months time from the date of redetermination of tax by the adjudicating authority for payment of this amount. So the cutoff date is little extended in those situations for them to allow them to pay the tax that is redetermined consequent upon remand of the cases. So as far as the time period is concerned, generally the tax demands which pertains to the first 3 years alone are covered. So those periods alone are covered. It includes not only the tax liability but also the disputed input tax credits also, and it includes the remand cases also, and also the ineligible transition credits also can be covered. So effectively it covers almost all situations except whenever the input tax credit is taken because of fraud or any misdeclaration. Right. Who is the proper officer who has to process the application for waiver of this interest and penalty with reference to this waiver scheme under section 128A? That also has been defined in terms of Rule 164. It says that the proper officer for processing the application for waiver of interest or penalty under section 128A would be the same proper officer who is authorized to issue the order under section 73. So there are certain I think there is some disturbance. Somebody has kept their mic open. Hello. Okay. So the proper officer for processing the application for waiver of interest or penalty or both is the same proper officer who is empowered to issue the order under section 73. So he himself can decide the eligibility of the application to be filed under form GST SPL 01. And also the proper officer who is empowered to recover the taxes under section 79 is also empowered to take action for forms filed under GST SPL 2. So GST SPL 1 and GST SPL 2 are two forms which are treated as an application form seeking waiver of interest and penalty in two different cases. One is with reference to the show cause notice where order in original is not issued. SPL 02 is after issuance of show cause notice and orders in original or order in appeal. So these two situations, the proper officer will be the corresponding officer who is empowered to issue notice under 73 or take recovery action under section 79. So the same officer will take action for this also. I've been talking to you about 2 or 3 forms so far, so I thought I will give you a list of forms that are prescribed under Rule 164 of the CGST Act. There are 8 forms which has been prescribed. So I'll just try to brief you about the relevance of each form and the importance which the taxpayer should adduce with reference to each of that form. GST SPL 01 is the form for application for waiver of interest and penalty under section 128(1)(a) against the show cause notice. I said that there are basically 2 stages. One is the show cause notice stage itself. The second is the stage at which the order in original has been passed with reference to the show cause notice, or order in appeal has been passed. So SPL 01 is the application which has to be used when it is pending at show cause notice stage. SPL 02 is the application for waiver of interest against an order in original or against an order in appeal. So that becomes the second stage. So when it is at the show cause notice stage, SPL 01 has to be used, and when it is at the order stage, be it the original authority or the appellate authority, SPL 02 has to be used. Right. The next aspect is once this form is filed, the next course of action which the proper officer will take, he will scrutinize the application for waiver, and if the applicant is eligible for the waiver scheme, he will take action accordingly. If the proper officer feels that the applicant is not eligible for this waiver scheme, then he will have to issue a show cause notice for rejection of the application seeking waiver. That will be done under SPL 03. If the proper officer is convinced by the fact that the applicant is not eligible for this waiver scheme, then he will issue this SPL 03, for which the applicant will have to respond within 1 month in form SPL 04. So SPL 04 is the form for reply to show cause notice. SPL 03 is notice to show cause for rejection of application, and SPL 04 is reply to show cause notice. There are in fact proper timelines also prescribed, which I will be describing to you in the subsequent slide. But at present, no, it is very important for us to understand how many forms are there and what form is to be used for what purpose. So SPL 04 is the form that will have to be used for replying to the show cause notice, that is SPL 03. So once this reply is received, the officer, after following the principles of natural justice, will take cognizance of the reply that is given in the show cause notice. He will also in the meantime offer a personal hearing to ensure that the applicant has opportunity to defend himself in person. So after conclusion of this personal hearing, the officer will take a call either to accept or reject the application. In case the officer decides to accept the application, he will use GST SPL 05. And in case the officer feels that yes, the applicant is not eligible for this scheme per se because of these reasons, then he will issue an order for rejecting the application in SPL 07. So SPL 05 is the order of acceptance of the application, and it indicates the point of conclusion of all the proceedings. SPL 07 in fact indicates the fact that the applicant is not eligible for this waiver scheme, and therefore no, he has to pay the taxes along with interest and penalty, and no waiver is allowed under section 128A. But that is not the end of the road for the applicant. He has an option to file an appeal with the appellate authority also. So he can proceed and then file an appeal with the appellate authority. And based on the facts and circumstances, the appellate authority also has the responsibility of passing an order in appeal. So the appellate authority can also take cognizance of the defense filed by the taxpayer, and he also has an option either to reject. I mean, he has the option either to accept the rejection and dismiss the appeal, or set aside the rejection order and allow the appeal, and therefore pass on the benefit to the taxpayer. So that order will be passed through SPL 06. SPL 08 is a form where the taxpayer will have to give an undertaking that he does not wish to file an appeal so that the waiver scheme is extended. See, once an applicant files a request for waiver of this scheme, he loses his opportunity to file an appeal further for the same litigation for the same period on the same show cause notice. Therefore, no, this undertaking under SPL 08 is also very important before he files his application for waiver of the scheme under SPL 01 or SPL 02. Right. I said that there are, it is not like, without any timelines. All the actions, either from the taxpayer or from the tax officer, are all driven by certain tax lines, timelines. And, for each action, there is a fixed timeline that is provided in terms of Rule 164. So, what is the timeline for applying for waiver? See, point number one, the first and foremost aspect which every applicant who desires to avail the benefit of this scheme should remember is that the tax that has been demanded under the notice issued under Section 73 should be paid. First of all, the entire amount should be paid without any reduction. So whatever amount has been demanded under Section 73 will have to be paid. This amount, second compliance obligation is that he has to pay this amount before 31st of March 2025 when the scheme actually closes. Right. So two very important timelines are fulfilled. Now, what is the timeline before which I can apply for my amnesty? It says that the law says that he has to apply within 3 months from the date notified. The last date notified for paying this amount is 31st of March 2025, as I said. And therefore, if the applicant wants to file an application under SPL 01 or SPL 02, as the case may be, which I explained a little earlier, it has to be filed within 3 months, maximum within 3 months from 31st March 2025, which means there will not be any opportunity for him to file SPL 01 or SPL 02 after 30th of June 2025. So that is the 3 months time limit which has been provided for making an application for waiver of interest and penalty. There are certain situations where the issue is remanded back. A notice issued under 74 is remanded back for redetermination of tax under Section 73. In such situations, the taxpayer will have to file SPL 01 and SPL 02 as the case may be within 6 months from the date of redetermination order passed under Section 73. So this is what is popularly known as de novo order. So within 6 months from that date, the taxpayer will have to file SPL 02 and then seek for availing the benefit under that scheme. What is the timeline for issuance of show cause notice for rejecting an application seeking waiver? It says that 3 months from the date of filing the application. So let us assume that a taxpayer has filed an application on 10th of April 2025 seeking a waiver of this interest and penalty under 128A. So in case the officer has to take an action, it has to be within 3 months from the date of filing the application. So if the application is filed on 10th of April, it means that before 10th of June, the officer should take an action and issue a show cause notice under under form GST SPL 03 seeking explanation from the taxpayer why his request should not be rejected. So this 3 months time has been given for taking or issuance of show cause notice for rejection of the application seeking waiver. Upon receipt of this application or upon receipt of this show cause notice for rejection of the application, the taxpayer or the applicant will have to file a reply for the rejection notice, and that has to be filed within 1 month from the date of rejection notice. So see, let us assume in the example which we saw, somebody has applied for waiver scheme on 10th of April 2025 after paying the taxes, but the proper officer is of the view that he may not be eligible for this scheme. Therefore, he issues a show cause notice rejecting the application under 128A before 10th of July 2025. In such situations, the taxpayer or the applicant will have to defend the rejection notice within 1 month from the date of rejection notice, which means when the notice is issued by, let us say, on 10th of June 2025, he will have to submit his reply before 10th of July 2025. So these are the timelines which are prescribed for payment of accepted demands, filing of SPL 01, filing of SPL 02, or issuance of a notice rejecting the application seeking waiver under SPL 03, and also replying to SPL 03, that is the rejection notice by the taxpayer. So these are the timelines which are prescribed. Now, the next very important question is that what is the timeline that is prescribed to pass an order on the application filed by the taxpayer? So let us now assume the same example where let us assume that the taxpayer, after paying the tax liabilities before 31st of March 2025, files an application on 10th of April 2025. Within 3 months from the date of filing application, an order will have to be passed either under GST SPL 05, or he must have issued a notice under GST SPL 03 rejecting the application seeking waiver. So any of these two actions will have to be taken. In case the applicant's request is acceptable by the proper officer, he will issue an order under GST SPL 05, and the proceedings are considered as concluded. But in case he is of the opinion that he is not eligible, then at least he must issue a notice under GST SPL 03, and within 4 months or within 3 months from the date of reply filed by the applicant. See that the timeline given between issuance of show cause notice under SPL 03 and reply is under SPL 04 is 1 month. So if the taxpayer files a reply by 10th of July 2025, within 3 months from the date of reply filed by the applicant, if show cause notice is issued, and a decision will have to be taken, which means from July before 10th of October, a final decision will have to be taken. In case the applicant fails to give a reply to the notice issued under GST SPL 03, then final action will have to be taken within 4 months from the date of issuance of the show cause notice. That is, if the notice is issued on 10th of June, by November 2025, final action will have to be taken. So these are the timelines that has been prescribed with reference to each and every notice or each and every instance that is associated with this business process. The next question that comes to our mind is, yes, I have filed my SPL 01 or SPL 02, but I have not received any notice. I have not received any order within the prescribed timelines, which is generally 3 months. In that case, beyond the prescribed time limits of from the date of application, the application shall be deemed to be approved and the proceedings are considered as concluded suo motu by the system itself. The system will proceed to issue a conclusion order. So strict timelines are prescribed not only to the taxpayers but also the tax officers to ensure that the scheme is progressing in a proper direction without any difficulty with reference to time, and every application is given its due credence and concluded within a time limit that has been prescribed under section 128A and rule 164 of the GST rules. Next, very important is some points which are associated with this amnesty scheme is that even if the issue is pending in any appellate forum, the litigant is eligible for applying for this scheme, but the only precondition is that he must withdraw the appeal which he has already filed with any of the appellate forum, which means, like, see, for instance, if I have been issued with an order in original on which there is a tax demand of 1 lakh rupees, against which I have gone on appeal and filed an appeal under APL 01, and that appeal is pending with Commissioner Appeals for a final decision. In that situation, if the taxpayer decides, yes, I will not want to litigate this case any further, but would like to avail the benefit of this waiver of interest and penalty, and therefore let me get into the scheme of section 128A. If he decides so, he will be permitted to do that, provided he withdraws his appeal. Obviously, that is the logical consequence. And upon upon withdrawal of his appeal petition, he will be provided with a withdrawal order by the authority before whom the issue was pending. So if at the time of filing this SPL 02, he is not in possession of the withdrawal order by the authority before whom the issue is pending, he can upload it within 1 month from the date of application for withdrawal. So SPL 02 along with the withdrawal order shall be filed. But in case at the time of filing SPL 02, the withdrawal order is not there, he has to file this withdrawal order within 1 month from the date of withdrawal order. So that will satisfy his condition, so that no, he doesn't miss the bus and he becomes eligible for the scheme if he is otherwise entitled. The taxpayer may opt for the benefit against any order, even if the departmental appeal is pending against such order. So let us assume that there is an order which has been passed, which is in favor of the taxpayer, but litigating that, the department has gone on appeal. Probably, if the taxpayer feels that he has a very little chance to win his case at the appellate forum, and probably the consequence of which will entail interest and penalty for him consequent upon the appellate order, then he can choose at this stage itself, he can choose to apply for the amnesty scheme, notwithstanding the departmental appeal. But consequent upon the departmental appeal, if the department appeal fails, then probably there is no liability on the taxpayer. But if the departmental appeal succeeds, then the taxpayer will have to just pay the differential amount which has been enhanced by the appellate authority. And if this amount is paid within 3 months, he is eligible for waiver of interest and penalty also. I will explain this also with an illustration in the subsequent in this slide. Let us assume that the order has been passed for a period of 2018-19, which is a specified period under section 128A. The amount demanded, let us assume, is that it is 1,75,000 rupees. Amount confirmed is 1 lakh rupees, which the taxpayer has agreed and paid also. But the department felt that no, the amount confirmed 1 lakh is wrong. The amount confirmed should have been 1,75,000, and therefore department has gone on appeal for 75,000 rupees. And if the order in appeal is in favor of the department, there will be an additional liability of 75,000 rupees on the part of the taxpayer. So if he had already applied for the benefit under section 128A, the benefit that was extended to him for waiver of interest and penalty will be eligible for him, provided he pays up this 75,000 rupees, which is an additional liability because of the order by the Commissioner of Appeals. So if he pays that 75,000 rupees, the benefit of the scheme will be available. However, if he does not pay this 75,000 rupees within a time limit of 3 months from the order in original, then the benefit extended under 128A will be withdrawn for him, and for the entire amount of 1,75,000 rupees, interest and penalty will accrue subsequently. So this is why I said that even for departmental appeal, the taxpayer is eligible for this scheme, but he has to pay the differential tax in case his litigation fails and the order is in favor of the department. There will not be any refund of taxes, interest or penalty that is already paid. As I said, generally all these amnesty schemes will hurt those taxpayers who pay up their liabilities immediately on receipt of the order in original. And if he has paid it along with interest and penalty, he cannot apply for this amnesty scheme, nor he can seek refund for the taxes, interest and penalty that has already been paid by him. And once opted for this scheme, this is also very important. Once if the taxpayer has opted for this scheme and the facility has been extended, then he cannot go on an appeal as an afterthought. So if he accepts a tax demand, pays up that tax demand, avails the benefit of this section 128A and got waiver of interest and penalty, after conclusion of these proceedings, he cannot go on appeal as an afterthought consequent upon all these processes that has been undertaken. So this is also very important precondition that has been laid for availing the benefit of the scheme under 128A. So we will see some situations also and try to answer those questions, because these were some of the apprehensions expressed by the taxpayers. And no, it is also part of the clarification that has been issued under Circular 238, which is relevant to this section 128A. The question is the benefit available if the tax paid in full before the section took effect? See, the question that is being asked here is, we all know that the section 128A has taken effect on 1st of November 2024. But the taxpayer accepting an order in original or even no accepting the show cause notice has voluntarily paid the tax under DRC 03 even before initiating any action, and more importantly, even before the section has taken effect on 1st of November 2024. Let us assume that he has paid the tax on 15th of October itself. Whether the benefit of the scheme is available, the answer is yes. Whatever amount that he has paid earlier, he can avail the benefit of this scheme. For instance, as I said, no, if the demand is 1,75,000 rupees, before 1st of November 2024, when this act came into place, he has already paid his 1,75,000. He has not paid the interest and penalty. Now, after 1st of November 2024, he wants to avail the benefit of this scheme. The answer is yes, the benefit is extended to the taxpayer. Next question is, can the amounts recovered by the tax officers from another person on behalf of the taxpayer can be considered as tax paid? Again, if the amount, see this in the example of 1,75,000 rupees, if the amount is collected not from the taxpayer but on behalf of him from a third party, like no, somebody has initiated garnishee proceedings or something like that, whether that payment can be considered as tax paid, the answer is yes, that will also be considered, and the benefit shall be extended to the taxpayer under section 128A, and the interest and penalty will be waived off. Can interest or penalty recovered by the tax officer be adjusted against the tax payable for the same demand? See, for instance, let us assume that there is a liability that has been created on account of a notice, and the taxpayer has paid interest and penalty. Subsequently, it has gone to appeal, and the appellate order has redetermined in the example which we saw. Like, this 1 lakh rupees was initially accepted by the taxpayer. For 75,000 rupees, department went on appeal. Subsequently, department won this litigation, and the liability is on the taxpayer for paying the 75,000 rupees. But at the time of paying this 1 lakh rupees, let us assume that he has also paid that 1 lakh rupees along with interest and penalty. Whether such interest and penalty can be adjusted towards the 75,000 rupees and subsequently seek waiver, the answer is no, it is not possible. No amount paid by the taxpayer or recovered by the tax officer as interest or penalty cannot be adjusted towards tax payable, and no refund of such amount is available, and therefore any amount that has to be paid as tax shall be adjusted only from that head and not from any other head which corresponds interest or penalty. The next question is, is the benefit under 128A is applicable if the tax has already been paid and the notice under section 73 pertains only to interest or penalty. So if the notice is issued only for recovery of interest and penalty, whether 128A is applicable, the answer is yes. However, no benefit under 128A where interest has been demanded for delayed filing of returns or delayed report of any supply will be allowed. The interest benefit will be applicable only when there is a consequential liability on account of section 73. See, somebody pays taxes instead of paying for the tax period of November 2024. The tax liability will have to be generally discharged on 20th of December 2024. See, for November 20th December 2024, he will have to file the return. But he files the return belatedly and reported the supply also belatedly at the time of filing his GST 3B. In such situations, he will have to pay interest along with the tax amount at the time of belated filing of his returns. In such situations, those interest will not be covered under section 128A. The interest only will be with reference to any liability that is created on account of show cause notice under section 73(1) or 73 SOP under 73(2). Matters relating to special leave petitions filed by the applicant before the Supreme Court, whether they are eligible or will it be treated as sub judice. The answer is they are eligible for this also, but the only precondition is that they are required to withdraw the SLP before the court before filing SPL 01 or SPL 02. SPL 01 and SPL 02, we already saw that they are application seeking waiver of interest and penalty in two different situations. So they will have to first of all withdraw such SLPs in the court. For that matter, any appellate forum, the proof of withdrawal shall be uploaded. If the proof of withdrawal is not available at the time of filing this SPL 01 or SPL 02, then they will have to give the acknowledgement, and then subsequently within 1 month, they will have to produce the order of withdrawal by the competent authority. So 1 month time has been provided. So anything that is sub judice, they are also eligible for this waiver scheme. Whether the benefit will be extended for matters involving IGST and compensation cess, because no, this is another apprehension that is expressed by the taxpayers, because 128A is something no, which is inserted only under the CGST and SGST Act, which means whether if there is a dispute with reference to IGST or compensation cess, whether such litigations are also covered under this act. The answer again is S, a categorical S. If the full payment has been made with reference to IGST and compensation cess, they are eligible for this scheme, because 128A has been made applicable for interstate transactions and for supplies which attracts compensation cess also. The only precondition is that full payment of tax will have to be made. So full payment of tax means payment of CGST, payment of SGST, as well as payment of IGST and compensation cess. And therefore, the provisions of Section 128A covers for IGST Act and Compensation Cess Act liabilities also. So that is again, there need not be any confusion with reference to that. And whether Section 128 covers transitional credit, again the answer is yes, because no, even a wrong transitional credit, the recovery proceedings for such action is issued under Section 73. So any notice, irrespective of the subject, if notice is issued under Section 73, then they are eligible for this waiver scheme. Whether Section 124, 128A will cover penalties under other provisions like late fee or redemption fee, the answer is like it covers generally only penalties and late fee and interest basically, whereas no relief for late fee and redemption fee has been extended under 128A. So it is generally only the interest and penalties that accrue on account of Section 122 or Section 125. Otherwise, no, late fee and redemption fee are not covered under this waiver scheme. Whether payment to avail waiver under 128A can be by utilizing ITC, input tax credit. Yes, if the precondition is that the tax demanded shall be paid. So, but it does not say that the tax demanded shall be paid in cash, and therefore the demanded tax in fact can be paid either by adjusting in the electronic cash ledger, or he can also use input tax credit, or no, he can use both methods also. See, for instance, let us assume that I have a demand of 1,75,000 rupees, and in my electronic credit ledger, I have a balance of only 75,000 rupees. But this scheme is eligible only if I discharge the demanded tax amount of 1,75,000 rupees. In such situation, I can adjust 75,000 rupees that is available as balance in my credit ledger and subsequently pay 1 lakh rupees as cash and ensure the compliance obligation that the demanded tax is paid and apply for refund. Reverse charge mechanisms and erroneous refunds must be paid only under cash, because the any litigation with reference to reverse charge mechanism or any litigation which entails a liability because a person is an e-commerce operator, in those two situations only cash ledger can be used. The credit ledger cannot be used in that situation. So that is also very, very clear. Whether the benefit of waiver under Section 128 on import of IGST Is similar provisions under the Customs Act applicable? The answer is no, because no any demand for import is not made under the IGST Act. The demand is made under the Customs Act 1962, and therefore no section 73 does not have a role there. So for imports, any liability, the provisions of section 128 may not apply. We have seen that there is a new relief that has been granted by insertion of 16.5 and 16.6. For the first 4 years, the time limit prescribed under section 16.4 has been extended by a common deadline of 30th of November 2021, before which, if a taxpayer avails the benefit, then he can the notices issued under section 16.4 for on limitations of time will not apply. They become eligible for that credit. So the question here is, if the demand amount involves the violation of section 16.4, whether the relief granted under section 16.5 and section 16.6 can be availed or not. See, I'll again explain this with an example. Let us assume that there is a total demand of 1,75,000 rupees, out of which 1 lakh is some tax liability and 75,000 rupees is ineligible input tax credit because it was not taken within the timelines prescribed under section 16.4. But after introduction of section 16.5, where the time limit has been extended up to 30th of November 2021, if the taxpayer has become eligible for the input tax credit to an extent of let us say 75,000 rupees, then the total tax payable will be calculated after deducting the amount that they have become eligible after introduction of 16.5 or 16.16, section 16.6. A breakup of which will have to be shown in SPL 01 or SPL 02 as applicable. So again, the example is that let us assume that there is a total demand of 1,75,000 rupees, out of which 1 lakh pertains to tax liability, 75,000 rupees pertains to ineligible input tax credit availed on account of limitations of time. Now that limitations of time has gone because of 16.5 and 16.6, and 75,000 he is eligible. Now, instead of paying 1,75,000 rupees, he can deduct 75,000 rupees, pay 1 lakh rupees, and then avail the benefit of this waiver scheme under 128. Next question is partial waiver allowed? See, for instance, there are multiple litigations in one show cause notice. So let us assume that I have two issues litigated in a show cause notice, which accumulates to be 1,75,000 rupees. One issue pertains to short payment of 1 lakh rupees. The other issue pertains to short payment of 75,000 rupees. In this situation, I feel that yes, that 75,000 rupees litigation is acceptable, whereas 1 lakh litigation is not acceptable. I would like to go on appeal for that situation. I have no powers or I have no eligibility. I have no powers or no eligibility to partially avail the benefit. It has to be only full tax amount that is demanded in a notice that will have to be paid. Only when the full amount is paid, the taxpayer becomes eligible for notice under section 128A. Multiple issues, including erroneous refund. The answer is yes, if the notice involves multiple periods, including multiple issues, including erroneous refund. The waiver applies only to the tax demands unrelated to erroneous refunds. So erroneous refunds has been kept consciously outside the ambit of these 128A. If the notice involves multiple periods, including the period where 128A applies, the waiver will be applicable only to the extent of this period which has been specified under 128A. So for the period beyond 128A, it is not eligible. The payment made after availing the waiver of interest and penalty. So let us assume that the proper officer finds that the waiver is suitable only for a particular amount, and the liability is reduced in GST SPL 05, where he confirms his eligibility for availing this waiver scheme. So the taxpayer will have to pay the remaining amount as provided in SPL 05. and this amount will have to be paid within 3 months. Otherwise, this becomes null and void. Taxpayers need to get the orders adjudicated or appeal disposed of prior to 31st of March 2025. Pay the taxes before that, and then avail the option for this waiver scheme for interest and penalty, and then follow the procedure that will help them in reducing the litigation. But let me reiterate the fact that this 128A is not only for confirmed orders, it can be availed even at show cause notices also. So that is another clarification that has been issued. So to wrap up, let me give you 5 very important points with reference to this amnesty scheme, so that you become very clear of what you are eligible and what precautions will have to be taken. First and foremost, the notice or the litigation should be under Section 73 of the CGST Act. Litigation under Section 74 is not eligible for this amnesty scheme for waiver of interest and penalty under Section 128A. Second is, it should pertain to the tax period of financial years 17-18, 18-19, and 19-20 only, or parts thereof. It cannot be for any other tax period. So let me be very clear on one aspect, that the show cause, it is not that the show cause notice should have been issued during this period, but it is very important that the show cause notice issued even beyond 1920 should be for the tax period covering any of these three tax periods. And as I said, only demands under 73 are eligible for this waiver scheme of interest and penalty. Third is mandatory payment of full amount of tax, and that has to be paid before the notified date of 31st of March 2025. If the tax amount is not paid, even if it satisfies all the other conditions, the taxpayer will not be eligible for benefits under this waiver scheme. And there is also one very important: if the matter is pending or if it is sub judice in any of the appellate forum like Commissioner Appeals or High Courts or Supreme Courts, where a writ petition or a special leave petition is pending, the taxpayer becomes eligible for this scheme only upon withdrawal of the pending appeal. So he has to withdraw the appeal, get the order of withdrawal, and produce it as an evidence to ensure that this condition is satisfied. And it may not be possible when he files his SPL 02, but within 1 month of filing SPL 02, if he produces this order of withdrawal, that will be taken on records and the benefit will be extended. And it is mandatory to file the application seeking waiver within the prescribed period. It is not that the department will come forward and no suo moto waiver will be given. Waiver will be given only if it is sought. Otherwise, no, it will not be extended. So these are the 5 very, very important points and conditions that one should remember in order to avail this. Avail the benefits that are extended under this scheme. So I attempted to clear almost all the apprehensions, gave you the nuances of the entire law, and 5 very important aspects which one will have to remember, so that they don't miss the bus and lose the benefit that is extended by the government. So please follow these 5 very important points, and once these points are followed, probably the benefit of the scheme will become very easy for you to avail. So I will conclude my presentation here. I have explained to you what is this scheme, what is the background of this scheme, and what are the procedures that are associated with that, with reference to demands of goods and services and their supplies and their litigations. What are the forms and procedures? To some extent, I explained to you the frequently asked questions, or I can say the apprehensions that comes into the minds of the taxpayers, and also a wrap up 5 very important points that are required to be noticed. 3 very important aspects will have to be remembered as far as resources are concerned. All these resources are available in cbic.gov.in. So if you want to avail the benefit of this scheme, first of all, you should understand the objective of the scheme, and which is provided under Section 128A of the CGST Act, that is available in the CGST Act. Second is, you have to go through the procedures prescribed under Rule 164 of the CGST rules. And after reading this, probably you will get a lot of doubts with reference to the scheme, for which a detailed clarification has been issued under circular number 238 dated 15th of October 2024. And if you go through these three provisions, probably you can have a holistic understanding of this scheme and enjoy the benefits extended by this amnesty scheme. So with this, I conclude my presentation and open the floor for Q&As.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for your deep presentation, lot of clarity, topic. They throw a lot of light on the subject and clarify a lot of doubts to the attendees who attended the webinar, I think so. So there is one question in the chat box. Mr. Prakash, there is one question. Cases where department has filed an appeal against the order mentioned in section 128A, 1B or C, the appellate authority or the tribunal or the court of the regional authority has issued an order enhancing the tax liability. In the meanwhile, the proper officer issued an order in form GST SPL 05 under section 128A. The taxpayer has not paid the said additional amount of tax liability in the specified time limit. What will the status of the conclusion of the proceedings under section 128A?
Yes, sir, I think I answered this question as part of my PowerPoint presentation also.
Sir.
And it is provided under Rule 164 also, and also the clarification has been issued under Circular 238. In this situation, the taxpayer will have to pay the additional amount consequent upon the departmental appeal within 3 months from the date of order of the appellate authority. And in case he fails to pay up that amount, the order issued under GST SPL 05